The cliff rose high above the valley like a wall made by time itself. Its surface was rough and cold, shaped by wind, rain, and many long years. A climber named Noah was moving carefully upward, his hands searching for strong holds, his boots pressing firmly against the stone. He was calm and focused. Climbing was not just a hobby for him. It was the only place where his thoughts slowed down. Noah had climbed many mountains before, but this one felt different. The air was quiet in a way that made him listen harder. Even the birds were silent. The sun was still low, and the shadow of the cliff covered most of the valley below. Noah paused to rest, breathing slowly, when something strange caught his eye. Just a few feet to his left, embedded into the rock, was a piece of iron. At first, he thought it was a trick of light. He rubbed his eyes and leaned closer. It was real. A solid iron rail was fixed tightly into the cliff. It was old and dark, covered with rust, but still strong. Noah frowned. Iron rails did not belong on a wild mountain wall. As he looked more carefully, he noticed another rail beside it. Then, another. They formed a clear line, running sideways across the cliff instead of upward. Someone had built a path here long ago. Noah felt his heartbeat change. This was no accident. He touched the rail. It was cold and rough under his glove. The metal felt heavy, like it had been placed with effort and purpose. His mind raced through possibilities. Maybe an old mining route. Maybe a forgotten construction project. But the cliff was far from any known worksite. Noah followed the line of rails with his eyes. They led toward a dark shape in the rock. As he shifted his position, the shape became clearer. It was an opening. A narrow entrance carved into the cliff itself. The opening was tall enough for a person to walk through. The stone around it was smooth, worn down as if many people had passed through over a long time. Noah felt a cold feeling settle in his chest. This place was hidden, not broken or fallen apart, but deliberately tucked away. He checked his gear again. His rope was secure. His headlamp was ready. He told himself he could take a quick look and turn back if anything felt wrong. Still, a quiet voice inside warned him to leave it alone. Curiosity won. Noah clipped his rope to a strong bolt and stepped toward the entrance. As soon as he crossed into the opening, the temperature changed. The air inside was dry and stale, carrying a faint smell of old dust. The sound of the wind vanished behind him, replaced by deep silence. He turned on his headlamp. A narrow beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing stone walls that were not natural. They were carved flat and straight. Long marks ran along the sides, showing where tools had once scraped the rock. This tunnel had been made by human hands. Noah moved slowly, placing each step with care. The iron rails continued inside, guiding the path forward. His boots echoed softly, the sound bouncing back to him in a way that made the space feel larger than it looked. The deeper he went, the more uneasy he felt. The tunnel was too well made for something forgotten. The walls were strong. The ceiling showed signs of careful support. Whoever built this place knew what they were doing. After several steps, Noah stopped. On the right wall, just within the reach of his light, was something carved deep into the stone. It was not a word. It was not a symbol. It was the clear shape of a human hand. The fingers were spread wide, pressed hard into the rock as if someone had tried to push away from the wall. The carving was rough, uneven, and full of tension. Noah stared at it, his mouth dry. This was not decoration. It felt like a moment frozen in stone. He stepped closer. The handmark was life-sized. The lines were deep, scratched with force. Noah imagined someone standing in this tunnel long ago, afraid, desperate, leaving this mark behind. He pulled his hand back quickly, as if the wall might move. Noah told himself to stay calm. Fear could play tricks on the mind, especially in dark places. Still, his body refused to relax. His shoulders were tight. His breathing shallow. The rails continued forward, bending slightly to the left. The light from the entrance no longer reached him. Only his headlamp kept the darkness away. The tunnel seemed to stretch farther than he expected, as if the mountain itself was hiding something deep inside. As he walked, Noah noticed more signs of human presence. Scratches on the floor. Small metal hooks fixed into the walls. The place had once been active, full of movement and sound. Now it felt empty, but not abandoned. It felt paused. Then he heard something. It was faint. Almost nothing. A soft sound, like stone shifting somewhere far ahead. Noah froze. He held his breath and listened. The sound did not repeat, but the silence that followed felt heavy. He considered turning back. He was deep enough to say he had seen something strange. No one would blame him for leaving. But the rails pulled his eyes forward again. They felt like an invitation and a warning at the same time. Noah took one more step. As he did, his headlamp revealed something on the ground ahead. It was a piece of fabric, faded and torn, caught between the rails. It was old, but not ancient. The color was still visible. That was when Noah truly felt fear. This was not just history. This place had been used by people, and not all of them had left easily. Noah stood alone in the tunnel, the mountain pressing in around him, realizing that following the iron rails had brought him into a story far darker than he ever expected. And he had not yet reached the end. Noah stood still for a long moment, his light fixed on the torn fabric lying between the iron rails. The cloth looked thin and worn, like part of a jacket or shirt. Dust covered it, but the tear was clear and sharp. This was not something dropped by chance. Someone had been here and something had happened. He felt the weight of the mountain above him. The tunnel no longer felt empty. It felt aware. Noah took a slow breath and moved closer. He crouched and examined the fabric without touching it. The edges were rough, as if pulled hard. He imagined a person rushing through the tunnel, caught in fear, moving too fast. The thought made his chest tighten. He stood again and looked ahead. The tunnel widened slightly, and the ceiling rose higher. His light showed marks on the walls, long and uneven. Some looked like tool marks. Others looked different. They ran in random directions, deeper and more frantic. Noah told himself to stay calm. Fear would only cloud his thinking. He reminded himself that this place was old. Anything that happened here was long over. Still, his steps slowed. As he followed the rails, he noticed the floor change under his boots. The stone became smoother, almost polished by years of use. This place had once seen many footsteps. The tunnel was not just a passage. It had been part of something larger. After several minutes, Noah reached a wider space. His light spread across a large chamber carved inside the mountain. The rails ended here, stopping near the center of the room. The walls curved outward, and the ceiling arched high above. Noah turned slowly, scanning the chamber. Along the walls were shallow openings, like small rooms or storage spaces. Some were empty. Others held broken wooden frames and rusted metal pieces. Everything was covered in dust. Near one wall, he saw something that made him pause again. A bench. It was made of stone, shaped directly from the wall. The surface was worn smooth. People had sat here. They had waited here. The idea felt strange and heavy. Noah stepped closer to the bench. Above it, scratched into the stone, were lines that formed simple shapes. Not words. Just marks. Tall lines. Short lines. Groups placed close together. Counting marks. Noah slowly understood. These were days. Or maybe nights. Someone had been trapped here long enough to count time by scratching the wall. A cold wave passed through him. He imagined someone sitting on that bench, waiting, marking another day gone. Waiting for something that never came. He backed away and turned toward one of the smaller openings. His light revealed a narrow side room. Inside, the floor dipped slightly, and the air felt heavier. Noah hesitated, then stepped inside. The room was empty except for a single metal hook fixed into the wall. Below it, the stone was worn thin. The marks there were deep, shaped by repeated movement. Noah did not want to think too hard about what had happened in this room. He stepped back into the main chamber, his mind racing. This was no simple mining tunnel. This place had a purpose. A dark one. As he turned, his light caught something near the far wall. A narrow passage leading deeper into the mountain. Unlike the main tunnel, this one sloped downward. Noah felt a pull toward it. Every part of him said to leave, to turn back while he still could. But another part needed answers. Needed to understand why this place existed. He checked his watch. Time had passed faster than he realized. He still had enough power in his light. Enough air. Enough strength. He moved toward the downward passage. The air grew colder as he descended. His breath fogged faintly in the beam of light. The walls here were rougher, less finished. This section felt rushed, as if built in haste. Halfway down, Noah heard a sound behind him. He turned quickly, his heart jumping. The chamber behind him was empty. Silent. His light showed nothing moving. He stood still, listening. Nothing. He told himself it was the mountain settling. Old stone shifting. Still, he felt watched. He continued down until the passage ended at a heavy metal door set into the rock. The door was thick, dark with rust, and covered in scratches. A small square opening sat at eye level, blocked by metal bars. Noah stepped closer and aimed his light through the opening. Inside was another room. This one was smaller and colder. The walls were bare. The floor was uneven. In the center lay a simple metal frame, low to the ground. Nearby, he saw more marks on the wall. These were not counted carefully. They crossed over each other in wild lines. Fear, anger, despair. Noah stepped back, his stomach tight. He understood now. This mountain held a place where people had been brought and kept. Hidden from the world. Forgotten on purpose. He looked at the door again. It was locked from the outside. Whoever had been inside had no way out. As Noah turned away, his boot struck something on the floor. A small metal object slid across the stone and stopped near the wall. He picked it up carefully. It was a simple key. Noah stared at it, confused. If the key was here, why was the door still closed? His eyes moved back to the metal door. Then he noticed something new. The door was not fully shut. There was a narrow gap along one edge. Noah felt a slow chill crawl up his spine. The door had been opened before. Recently or long ago, he could not tell. The tunnel behind him was silent. The chamber above waited in darkness. Noah stood between them, holding the key, knowing that whatever lay beyond that door was the truth the mountain had tried to hide. And he was no longer sure he wanted to see it. Noah stood very still, holding the small metal key in his hand. It felt heavier than it should, as if the truth inside the mountain had weight of its own. The narrow gap along the metal door seemed to watch him. The darkness behind it did not move, but it felt close. He took a slow breath and leaned forward. The air that came through the gap was colder than the tunnel air. It carried a dry smell, mixed with rust and stone. This room had been sealed for a long time. Noah looked back down the passage behind him. The way out was clear. He could still leave. He could report what he had found and let others handle it. That was the smart choice. But his feet did not move. He brought the key closer to the lock. It matched perfectly. His hand shook slightly as he placed it inside and turned. The lock gave a quiet sound and released. Noah pushed gently. The door opened with effort, scraping against the stone floor. The sound echoed down the passage, loud in the silence. Noah froze again, listening. Nothing answered. He stepped inside. The room was small, just wide enough for a few steps in each direction. His light moved across bare stone walls. The metal frame in the center was clearer now. It was simple and low, fixed firmly to the ground. The surface was worn smooth. Noah felt his throat tighten. He forced himself to look carefully. Near the frame lay a shallow metal bowl, rusted and empty. Beside it was a thin blanket, folded neatly, as if someone had tried to keep order in a place without hope. On the far wall, his light caught something different from the marks he had seen before. These were words. They were scratched shallow and uneven, as if written by tired hands. Noah leaned closer and read slowly. Not all words were clear. Some were worn away. Others crossed each other. But a message remained. We are not lost. We are hidden. Noah stepped back, his heart beating faster. There was no name, no date, only that message. He imagined people brought here, cut off from the world, kept in silence. Hidden so completely that even the mountain seemed to forget them. Noah turned slowly in the room. He noticed another detail. In one corner, near the wall, the stone looked different. It was darker, smoother, as if touched often. He walked over and ran his hand along it. The stone shifted. Noah jumped back as a small section of the wall moved inward. A narrow opening appeared, just wide enough to see through. Behind it was another passage, even darker than the one he had come from. This place had layers. The mountain was not just hiding one secret. It was hiding many. Noah hesitated only a moment before moving closer. He aimed his light through the opening. The beam revealed a tight corridor sloping upward. This passage looked older than the rest. The walls were rough and uneven. The iron rails did not continue here. He stepped through carefully. The air felt stale, untouched. His light showed faint marks along the walls. Not scratches. Handprints. They appeared at different heights, some low, some high. Noah imagined people walking through here, touching the walls to guide themselves in the dark. As he climbed upward, the passage narrowed. His shoulders brushed the stone. The silence pressed in. Every breath sounded too loud. After a short climb, the passage ended at a flat stone wall. Noah frowned. There was no door. No opening. Then he noticed a thin line across the wall. A seam. He pressed gently, and the stone shifted again. A hidden door opened outward, releasing a rush of cold air. Noah shielded his eyes as bright light flooded in. He stepped forward and emerged onto a ledge halfway up the cliff. The sky stretched wide above him. The valley spread far below. The fresh air hit his lungs hard. He breathed deeply, shaking with relief. Noah turned back toward the opening. From the outside, the exit was almost invisible. The stone blended perfectly with the cliff face. Anyone passing below would never know it was there. This was how people disappeared. Noah sat down on the ledge, trying to steady himself. His mind raced. The tunnel system had entrances hidden from the world and exits hidden from sight. Whoever built it had planned everything. He looked down the cliff and saw something that made him freeze again. Below the ledge, far down the rock face, were more iron rails. Older ones. Broken ones. Leading to places long buried by stone and time. This mountain was full of paths that no one knew. Noah knew he could not keep this to himself. He would need proof. Clear proof. He turned back toward the hidden door, preparing to go inside again. As he did, his light caught movement on the stone floor near the opening. A fresh mark. It was small but clear. A footprint in dust that had not been there before. Noah's breath caught. He looked around the ledge. The wind moved softly. The sky was empty. No climbers. No birds. He looked back at the footprint. It pointed toward the hidden door. Someone else had been here. Recently. Noah stood slowly, every sense sharp. The mountain that had seemed silent before now felt awake. The tunnels were not just old places. They were still connected to the present. Noah understood then that he was no longer just discovering history. He was stepping into something unfinished. And whatever had once used this mountain might not be gone at all. Noah stared at the footprint near the hidden door. The dust around it was thin and undisturbed except for that single mark. It was clear and fresh. Someone had stepped here not long ago. His heart beat faster as the truth settled in his mind. He was not alone on this mountain. The wind moved softly across the ledge, brushing against his jacket. The sky above was calm, almost peaceful, which made the situation feel even stranger. Noah looked left and right along the cliff face. There was no movement, no sound. Still, the footprint remained, silent proof that another person knew about this place. Noah crouched and examined it carefully. The shape was narrow, the sole pattern unfamiliar to him. It was not his own. He straightened slowly, his muscles tense. Leaving now felt dangerous. Staying felt worse. But he needed answers. He turned back toward the hidden door and stepped inside again. The stone door closed behind him with a dull sound, sealing the daylight away. Darkness returned, broken only by his headlamp. The tunnel felt tighter now, as if the mountain had shifted while he was outside. Noah moved carefully down the narrow corridor, listening for any sound that did not belong to him. His boots made soft echoes. Each step felt too loud. As he reached the room with the metal frame, he paused. Something had changed. The thin blanket on the floor was no longer folded neatly. It was pulled slightly to one side, as if brushed by a foot or a hand. Noah felt a chill move through his body. The dust near the frame showed faint marks that had not been there before. Someone had been here while he was gone. Noah backed away slowly, keeping his light steady. He did not want to rush. Panic would only lead to mistakes. He forced himself to breathe evenly. He turned toward the main chamber and followed the passage back. The iron rails guided him forward like silent lines of memory. When he reached the large chamber with the stone bench, he stopped again. A soft sound echoed faintly. It was not stone shifting. It was not the wind. It was a step. Noah froze, holding his breath. His light swept across the chamber walls, the side openings, the floor. At first, he saw nothing. Then he noticed movement near one of the smaller rooms. A shadow pulled back into darkness. Noah's heart pounded. He did not shout. He did not run. He stood still, trying to understand. Whoever was here knew these tunnels better than he did. Running blindly would trap him. He took a careful step forward and spoke in a calm voice. "Is someone there?" His words echoed softly. The silence that followed felt heavy. No answer came. Noah moved toward the smaller room where he had seen the shadow. His light entered first, revealing empty space. Then something else. A backpack. It leaned against the wall, worn and dusty, but not old enough to belong to the past. The straps were frayed from use. One side pocket was open. Noah did not touch it. He examined it from a distance. A water bottle sat beside it. The plastic was clean, new. This person was not a ghost of history. They were alive. Noah felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear because someone unknown was moving through hidden tunnels. Relief because this meant answers were still possible. He stepped back into the main chamber, turning slowly, making sure nothing approached from behind. His light caught another detail near the stone bench. Fresh marks on the floor. Footprints leading deeper into the tunnels. Noah followed them carefully, staying close to the wall. The footprints led toward a passage he had not noticed before, hidden behind a curve of stone. This passage sloped downward more sharply than the others. The air grew colder as he descended. His breath became visible again. The walls here were rough, unfinished. The floor was uneven, forcing him to move slowly. He heard a sound ahead. A low murmur. It was faint, almost lost in the stone, but it was human. Noah stopped and listened. The sound came again. It was not a voice speaking clearly. It was more like someone talking to themselves or humming quietly. Noah moved closer, careful to keep his steps light. The passage opened into another chamber. This one was smaller and darker. In the center stood a person, facing away from him. The person wore dark clothing and a hood pulled low. They were looking at the wall, where more marks and words were scratched into the stone. Noah spoke again, softly. "Hey." The person stiffened and turned slowly. A face came into the light. It was tired and thin, with deep lines around the eyes. The eyes themselves were sharp, alert, and full of worry. The person raised their hands slightly, not in threat, but in caution. "Do not come closer," the person said. Noah stopped. He nodded once. "I am not here to hurt you," Noah replied. "I was climbing and found the rails." The person studied him carefully, then lowered their hands. Their shoulders relaxed just a little. "You were not supposed to find this place," the person said. Noah swallowed. "Neither were you, I think." The person gave a short, quiet laugh without humor. "I was brought here long ago," they said. "But I did not stay hidden." Noah felt a chill at the words. "You escaped." "Yes," the person said. "But the mountain does not let go easily." Noah glanced around the chamber. "Are there others?" The person shook their head slowly. "Not anymore." Silence filled the space again. The walls seemed to listen. Noah realized then that this was not just a place of the past. It was a wound that never fully closed. And now he stood face to face with someone who carried that wound with him. The mountain had finally revealed its secret. But the truth was heavier than Noah had imagined. Noah stood quietly, facing the person in the chamber. The mountain felt still, as if it was waiting for what would be said next. The person lowered their hood slowly, letting the light fall fully on their face. "My name is Aaron," the person said. "I was brought here many years ago." Noah nodded gently. He did not rush. He could see the fear and strength mixed together in Aaron's eyes. This was someone who had survived something heavy. "They brought many of us," Aaron continued. "People who asked questions. People who went where they were told not to go. This mountain was used to hide them." Noah felt his chest tighten. "Who did this?" Aaron shook their head. "Names do not matter anymore. Those people are gone. But the place remained. And so did the damage." Noah looked around the chamber again. The scratched walls. The quiet air. The cold stone. Everything felt different now. It was no longer just a mystery. It was a memory carved into rock. "How did you survive?" Noah asked. Aaron turned toward the wall and pointed to a narrow passage. "That path leads to the hidden exit you found. I discovered it by accident. I followed air movement. I listened to the mountain." Noah understood. "And you stayed?" Aaron nodded. "I left once. I tried to forget. But no one believed me. They said I imagined it. So I came back. I wanted proof." Noah thought about the backpack. The fresh footprints. "You were collecting evidence." "Yes," Aaron said. "Marks, tools, records, anything left behind." Noah took a slow breath. "You do not have to do this alone anymore." Aaron looked at him sharply. "People disappear when they talk." "No," Noah said firmly. "People disappear when no one listens." Silence filled the chamber again. This time it felt different. Not heavy. Just quiet. Noah removed his climbing camera from his pack. He turned it on and aimed it at the walls, the floor, the metal frame, the writings. He recorded everything slowly and clearly. "We document," Noah said. "Then we leave together." Aaron hesitated, then nodded. They moved carefully through the tunnels, retracing Noah's path. The iron rails guided them like lines of truth finally being followed. When they reached the chamber with the stone bench, Aaron stopped. "This is where I waited," Aaron said softly. "I counted days here." Noah placed his hand gently on the bench. "You do not have to count anymore. They continued upward until they reached the hidden exit. Cold air rushed in as the stone door opened. Daylight filled the passage. Aaron stepped out onto the ledge and closed their eyes. The sky was wide and bright. The valley below looked endless. "I never thought I would see this again without fear," Aaron said. Noah smiled quietly. "The mountain kept the secret. But it does not own it anymore." They climbed down carefully, staying close, watching each other's steps. When they reached the valley floor, the mountain looked calm and silent, just another cliff among many. But Noah knew better now. Weeks later, the story spread. Experts came. Authorities arrived. The tunnels were sealed carefully, not hidden again, but protected. Records were made. The truth was documented. The mountain was no longer allowed to keep its silence. Aaron spoke to people who listened. Slowly, others came forward with similar stories. The past began to open. Noah returned to climbing, but he never climbed that mountain again. Some places were meant to be respected, not challenged. One evening, Noah stood on a different ridge, watching the sun fall behind distant peaks. His thoughts were calm again. The iron rails were no longer just a strange discovery. They were a reminder that truth can be buried, that fear can carve deep marks, but that even stone cannot hide everything forever. The mountain had revealed its secret, and this time, the world listened.